all about a card game. Choosing the right cards is not in our hands, but playing well with the cards in hand determines our success.
How July is moving pretty fast. We all can't wait to shed off the cold. You can imagine how it's been tricky, especially here in Nairobi. It's been cold, but we all thank God all the same. It is the 21st day of July, and that's why I say the month is moving pretty fast. The year is 2021. I hope that you are well. And yes, once again, Eid ul-Adha. I know the celebrations were yesterday, but we keep celebrating until the week is gone. I hope you had a lovely one, and we look forward to a great day today. As we look at what is happening in the world of news, we'll be having conversations revolving around the politics of the day and so much more. We'll also be talking about matters relationships. That is later on the broadcast. The biggest question that a majority of married people will always ask themselves: did I do a wrong thing in choosing this person? Have you ever gotten to a point where you regret that I do moment in your life? And in the event that you do, then what is it that you do to make sure that at least you keep the fire burning, you keep the relationship together, is what we'll be discussing, and so much more. Of course, everything is happening in regards to matters politics. Like they always say, it's one day, but so much changes. We're talking about the revival NASA coalition. We still are talking about the Kiamba aftermath and what is likely to culminate out of it. BBI conversation is still here with us. The election conversation is still here with us, whether we're going to have one in 2022 or not. The aspect of COVID-19 we do not stop discussing, and matters economy. We'll be looking at all that alongside my guests this morning, so make sure that you keep it right here. We're expecting to have Jimmy Gakuya, that is the Embakasi North Member of Parliament, Dr. Iseli Simiyu Tongaren, Member of Parliament, and Wakili Ndego Ahome, who's the Chair County Assemblies Forum. That is for that particular discussion. I'll be introducing the guests that we'll have for the next segment as and when they hit the stage. They'll be joining us, of course, from the Mombasa studio. So it's really a lot of host or activities that will be playing out right here. And I welcome you to be part and parcel of the conversation. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela at TV47KE. You drop your comments and I'll get to sample them as we continue with the broadcast. Remember, the SMS short code too is 22047. I'll be glad to sample all this. My name is Linda Lela. The broadcast begins right away as we first of all look at what has been captured on the papers. As always, the Daily Nation, the Standard newspaper, and the People Daily are the papers that we're having this morning. And like I said, so much is playing out in regards to matters politics. Rip-off as schools sneaking extra fees. Also, we do not fail to discuss matters education. And unauthorized levies are hidden under various terms to avoid detection. Yes, head teachers have defied Ministry of Education guidelines and are using all tricks in the bag to draw more money from the parents who already are burdened by the crash learning timetable that has seen them pay levies 3 times in 7 months. That's a story captured on page 7 of the Daily Nation, as of course captured right here on the front page. It's quite unfortunate, and most of the teachers or parents will tell you it's been quite hard for them. But then again, what do you do? Because you still need to have your students going back to school. A majority have lost their jobs, but it appears like it is not favorable for them in any way. And still on matters education, teachers who ditched a NAT to pay agency fee moved to offer troubled union that had fallen out with TSC a lifeline. A story captured on page 7 of the Daily Nation, as you can see right here, as well on matters education. And away from matters education that we'll be discussing later, civil servants to start paying more for rent. Well, the Auditor General wants the amounts paid for government houses reviewed to reflect current market rates. Well, a story captured on the back page of the Daily Nation that I'm sure will not augur well with many. We all know how affordable the houses of government have been, to a point where sometimes people go out there to rent others, and of course they get a chance to get these houses, and in most cases they rent it out, or they rent them out a higher fee. So of course this is something that is not going to be received well, but then again probably it is time. The State Department has been losing hundreds of millions out of this, and now this recommendation by the Auditor General of course will rate the government houses that will be reviewed upward. We'll be looking at that to see how then this will be received. I'm sure it's going to spark lots of reactions. But away from it, on the aspect of Thanksgiving and celebrations for Eid al-Adha, well, Thanksgiving, Muslims marked Eid al-Adha yesterday with prayers in fields and mosques and family fun parks. A story captured on page 10, a little bit different still because of the aspect of COVID-19, but indeed it was worth a celebration, as you'd see all around or different parts of the country. Most of them gathered in celebration of this special moment. Now, on missing children, mothers anguish over missing twins who left for church and never returned. These cases continue to come up. It has been an agonizing 8 months for the family of Esther Wambui, who is 45, who remained optimistic that her daughters are alive. Nyambura and Kayesi attended Kitengela Utumishi Public Primary School, and after going to church, they never surfaced again. It's quite an unfortunate occurrence, but we all hope that indeed, as the mother is hopeful, such is going to be the case as the probe continues. And on the other hand, detectives yesterday visit crime scene. Fugitive police officer Caroline Kangongo's parents have the go-ahead to bury her, but there is no update on investigation processes. A story captured on page 11. We've all been following up on this event for the better part of this month, and this of course is at the point where it is. In case of anything else, then we'll be here to make sure that you are updated. As to matters politics, making of the third force ahead of 2022. Today we'll be discussing the politics of coalition, and One Kenya Alliance is exploring a third political force to field a presidential candidate against Deputy President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga should he declare his candidature. Now the OKA principal, OKA, yes, One Kenya Alliance principals, Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka, Moses Wetangula and Gideon Moi yesterday reaffirmed their irreversible commitment to the alliance. A story captured on page 4, as they would say, they are planning their ways of making sure that they do not work with Right Honorable Raila Odinga. That as to the aspect of the NASA coalition. And away from the Standard newspaper, the Daily Nation, we have the Standard newspaper inside One Kenya Power Plan for 2022. The same story as captured on the front page. Party leaders Mudavadi, Kalonzo, Moi and Wetangula legal process to cement union and form team that will help pick a presidential candidate to take on DP Ruto, possibly ODM leader Raila Odinga. Story captured on page 5, as they would say, what has become a matrix, or a little bit a hectic of a matrix, is the aspect of deciding who it is that will carry the flag. But what's important is that they maintain they are likely to ditch NASA coalition and of course now incorporate Gideon Moi to work together. As many would argue, it will be hard to beat the DP or Right Honorable Raila Odinga if they do not go together as a team. So we'll be discussing this on Uhuru's succession as we continue with the broadcast. Shock of COVID-19 kits held at port. An acute shortage of testing kits is compromising the country's capability or fight against coronavirus, even as Ministry of Health officials reveal the kits are being held at the port. What's even sad is that the numbers continue to surge. We have very many cases. As of yesterday, there were about 600 and something people who had COVID-19 and 17 deaths that were reported, which is quite unfortunate, about 11% of the surge, which is quite alarming, even as we continue to grapple with the Delta variant that culminated from India. Now, changes don't need CS Magoha nod, and according to the Vice Chancellor, the changes are mere designation that do not alter the structure of the university charter and statute. hence do not require any gazettement. A story captured on page 7. We all acknowledge that there's so much that is happening in the education sector in terms of changes, and all these changes then would trigger lots of indifferences across different sectors. But then again, we await to see how then this will be addressed. On matters education, page 7 of the Standard is expounding on this. Tracing relatives of tanker victims stats. A story captured on page 10. The numbers, of course, by the time that was happening was at 13, but as it would be said, there's still so many of them that are missing, and therefore investigations continue upon that tanker explosion that so many people lose their lives and many are battling for their lives in hospitals today. Now, unity fights of Mulembe Nation, whether there's going to be any unity or not, that is for the Mulembe Nation to forge forward, formidably, to make sure that at least for the very first time they get a chance at the top seat, is one thing that remains elusive, and the conversation is still on as to whether they would be able to come together to counter the other presidential candidates that would be there. As many would say, Mudavadi appears to be a sure bet, but then the coming in of the likes of Muhisa Kitui will then alter the matrix of the Mulembe Nation. To the People Daily, 104,000 poor students miss out on Form 1 bursaries. Only 10,705 of applicants were selected for the 4-year state and Equity Bank scholarships, leaving remaining learners staring at a bleak future. Less than 2 weeks to start first term. We all know that 2nd of August, students are supposed to report. But then again, reality is that the economic times are not so friendly, especially for their parents, and therefore they will have to struggle to make sure that they're able to stay in school. Concern as number of unclaimed bodies are on the rise. That is at the Kenyatta National Hospital. And we also saw how there was that mass grave and burying of numerous people or numerous bodies, that is in Kisumu County, after the numbers were high and there were no claims from families who of course would come to say that, well, they have, their relatives in there, and therefore the numbers of that are on the rise, are quite alarming. Then of course the government is left with no choice but to maybe conduct this, mass burial. And Raila factor in the One Kenya Power scheme, again, is one of the key things that we discussed this morning as we discussed the possible NASA, review or NASA revival. But as it is, it appears like, the other principles feel like they still were shortchanged by Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and therefore they do not see the essence of working together with him. On the aspect of their strategy, Kalonzo Mudavadi, Wetangula and Gideon differ on method of choosing flag bearer, but agreed to start divorcing from NASA and Jubilee. That is a story captured on page 2 of the People's Daily. These are the key stories that we'll be looking at. And touring the space, Jeff Bezos launches to space on rocket ship, and world's richest man and 3 others return safety 11 minutes after takeoff. So much is happening. I'll be here to make sure that you are updated as we continue with the conversation. Briefly, we look at what my team has prepared, and the family of the late Joanna's Strackbury has held a virtual meeting celebration that is on the life of Joanna, where different environmentalists shared their tributes and bid her farewell. Police are still carrying out investigations that is into the murder after she was shot in her home in Kiambu Forest. Now, Joanna's family and friends are calling for justice to prevail following the gruesome murder where she had 4 bullet wounds. They want Joanna's case to be pursued to conclusion and arrest convictions and punishment to those responsible. The environmentalists express their plight as being targets whenever they try to defend green spaces.
This must stop. We must not allow any more Kenyans, environmental defenders, to fall because of greed and selfishness. We talk about protection for environmental defenders. We cannot just talk. We need action. We need transformation in this space. We need government commitment to become action, to secure the rights of environmental defenders, as so many eloquent speakers have stated. We need protection from those who seek to silence us with threats, intimidation, and bullets.
So who is assuring us of our safety? After this incident, I'm certain that many environmental activists are shaken and don't feel safe anymore. But that does not mean that we have been silenced. In fact, we will fight on to honor Joanna's life and the lives of many other defenders who have been killed in the past. We want to see justice served and those who killed her convicted. And then we want a state assurance that this will never, ever happen to anyone else.
May his soul continue to rest in eternal peace. Now, members of One Kenya Alliance are yet to agree on whether to accommodate ODM boss Raila Odinga in their pre-22 pact. They, however, say they will dissolve their current agreements with either Jubilee or ODM, ready to unveil a new formation, as Elizabeth Mutuku reports.
In yet another meeting, members of One Kenya Alliance have said they are ready to form a new outfit ahead of next year's polls. The parties of Wiper, ANC, Ford Kenya and KANU say they will dissolve current political formations and agreements to form a new coalition that will be unveiled soon.
It will leave. Officially, it will be announced. But to form One Kenya Alliance, the principles of the three parties must leave NASA and KANU must leave Jubilee.
And the union was for the life of this parliament.
Yes, and I've told you that every coalition, including the Jubilee coalition, its life ends with the next election. Thank you.
However, the members are yet to agree on whether to accommodate ODM boss Raila Odinga, with some still pushing for Raila to be included, but on conditions. The technical committee, however, said to have given the One Kenya Alliance principals Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula and Gideon Moi time to agree on the matter.
Let me make it very clear that these parties, under the Political Parties Act, are run through organs. And the organs of the parties must meet. And this Friday, we're going to call parties and their organs to start those discussions so that we make it formal. We don't want to speak on behalf of the various members who are not here. And as you can see, we are only representation of a few of our colleagues. Thank you.
And that is why there are many of us, including those in Jubilee, who are keen to look towards the future. Life does not look back. The NASA members here have spoken. They have said NASA is part of their history, but Kenyans are looking towards the future. I know very many members within Jubilee, because I know there was talk about Jubilee coalition with one or other parties, which has not gone through any of our processes. There are very many members who are seeing the future represented in this formation.
The members also are divided on who will fly the One Kenya Alliance flag and the formula that will be used to come up with the flag bearer.
Aware, and those who might not be aware, the life of NASA is tied to the next general elections. We agreed that our life would end with the next general elections. We will begin the process of getting out of NASA because that coalition is coming to an end. So the answer is yes, it is our history. The second question, as you have seen from the statement, we are going to invite like-minded leaders, and there are going to be many, and many have expressed their interest.
Despite the ongoing talks within the One Kenya Alliance pertaining the 2022 polls, it's now evident that the principals are divided on whether to accommodate Raila Odinga, who has already declared that is in ballot come 2022. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47 Nairobi.
An ODM boss, Raila Odinga, now says that the supporters of the Post-Building Bridges initiative have an alternative to plan to revive the bill if the Court of Appeal will not rule in their favor. Paul Kirobi reports.
Yes, sir. ODM leader Raila Odinga says the BBI proponents will seek an alternative route to ensure the bill sails through if the Court of Appeal rules against them.
Hata kama wanazuia sasa, sisi tutapata njia ya competition.
When you see the confusion in the political space, the disorganization in the political arena, it is because a new thing is happening and people cannot comprehend it, and people cannot understand it. We have said we are changing the conversation, we are changing the politics of our nation away from ethnicity, away from changing the constitution so that us as leaders can share positions.
While drumming up support for the Building Bridges Initiative BBI, Odinga believes the reggae which was suspended will address the issue of Kenyans after the constitutional reforms. He reiterated that BBI will solve most of the problems, including past injustices for a better Kenya.
Pwani kwa jumla zilikuwa napata constituencies 9 mpya. 10 mpya. Hiyo imependekezwa katika hiyo BBI.
Raila has been on a tour of the Coast region where he accused Deputy President William Ruto of corruption and using the money as handouts in churches.
Amekuja na gunia, ameingia na pesa ndani ya kanisa. Ati mimi ni mtu mcha Mungu sana. Mimi najua ati Luka sura hii na hii imesema hii na hii na hii. Wachendeni na yule watu wa vitendawili.
Mbona wanazunguka hapa Kilifi kama watafuti cheo? Aende akae kwake huko Sugoi. Kitu gani namleta hapa majengo kama sio kutafuta cheo?
The DP, who was in a church in Nairobi, however, mocked the opposition, saying they are confused on who to back in next year's polls.
Kuna hali ya taharuki kule kwa kiwanja. Watu hawajui ni left, sijui ni right, sijui tuungane na hawa, sijui tuungane na wale. In short, kimeumana.
Deputy President met with leaders of the African Inland Church at AIC Milimani, while ODM boss camped in Taita Taveta for the second day. Paul Kirobi, TV47.
Now, a section of UDA supporters in Muguga ward now want a recount of votes in the recent concluded by-election. The supporters of UDA's Peter Dhumbe say there were many rejected votes that they believe were in the candidate or in favor of their candidate, as Joash Onsari reports.
A day after Jubilee contested the outcome of the recently concluded Kiambaa parliamentary by-election, their UDA counterparts in Muguga ward have also raised a concern over the results. Supporters of the Deputy President William Ruto, UDA, wants to challenge the outcome of the mini polls. UDA's Peter Dhumbe lost to Jubilee's Joseph Mung'ara after garnering 4,062, while Mung'ara garnered 4,089, a difference of 27 votes.
Tunataka Kahua polling station ihesabiwe tena, na tunataka Muguga polling station ihesabiwe tena, na tena Kamuguga polling station 3, kwa sababu hapo tunajua kuna rigging ilifanyika na tuko na ushahidi ya kutosha ile tutapresent kwa koti zetu, na tunakujua mahakama zetu zinaongea ukweli na zinasimamia justice.
UDA's chief agent in the recent mini poll, James Gashero, now wants Peter Dhumbe to withdraw his concession to allow them file a petition in court. Gashero said majority of the votes were categorized as rejected. The UDA officials want a review of the rejected votes, claiming a majority were cast in favor of their candidate Peter Dhumbe.
And I can confirm to everyone that there were many anomalies which we noted, and I am one of those who are demanding the recount of the entire votes so that we can see and prove our point.
No official communication that KT conceded. He has never, and he is not ready to concede because he won the election.
This comes just a day after their Jubilee counterparts rejected the outcome of the Kiambaa parliamentary by-election. The ruling party also want a recount of votes in Kiambaa.
We want to tell them, and especially some of the officials, and they know themselves, kindly, either through a mission or commission, kindly give us some space. We want to have freshness. We want to infuse young leadership in the Jubilee party so that at least the party becomes marketable and the party will be able to compete on an equal platform with other parties.
Shida kubwa ya Jubilee sio Kanini Gega, sio Atuoli, sio Murathe na sio Tuju. Shida yetu ya Jubilee ni Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
The mini polls were held on Thursday last week. Joash Onsare, TV 47.
Still on politics, a section of Ford Kenya Party members, led by Secretary General Eseli Simiyu and Kandui Member of Parliament Wafula Wamunyinyi, now say they will announce the party's new leadership soon. Addressing the media in Nairobi, they have denounced Moses Wetangula as their party leader. They claim that Wetangula is not representing the party in the ongoing One Kenya Alliance negotiations.
Ford Kenya, Simba, Simba, Simba. Usawa, haki na ukweli. Although Wetangula went to court as the complainant, as the plaintiff, over his dismissal by the National Executive Council, he has not been willing to pursue the conclusion of this matter because he enjoys those conservatory orders. The last NDC that was held by Ford Kenya was 2011. Therefore, the subsequent one ought to have been held in 2015. And after 2015, another one ought to have been held in 2019, the 4-year cycle. Now we are in 2021. We have not had an NDC for over 10 years. So those in office are there illegally, and we therefore want to remedy that situation. We have discussed a way forward. We're going to deal with this issue as new officials who are given mandate on 31st of May 2020. This meeting has also resolved that members of the party go to the NDC urgently and get new office bearers. The team must have a party headquarters in Nairobi. This is also a matter of urgency. Our party is operating as a briefcase party because since the lapse of the lease agreement with the previously held headquarters, we do not have a headquarter right now.
Away from politics to some good news, 4 days after TV47 highlighted the plight of a family in Zimmerman after an alleged abduction of their 3-year-old son. The baby has finally been reunited with his family, and baby Franklin Gisheru, who went missing for 27 days, was dropped in Gisheru, in Kasarani, police station. That is by a woman who identified herself as a Good Samaritan before he was taken to his children's home or taken to a children's home. And Mwangi Maina has that particular story on the developments of the same.
Toka Frank apote, nashindanga hospitali kila siku kila saa, hata kazi hatuendangi, tunakaa tu huko nje, tumetarajia tu mtoto wetu atoke tu kwa njia.
It was the anguish, pain and despair of Emily Mwangi, mother to 3-year-old Franklin Gisheru, when we visited their home Thursday last week in Nairobi's Zimmerman estate. Baby Franklin was allegedly abducted 27 days ago, and his search and could be rescued had borne no fruit till Monday evening. After highlighting their plight, the family of 3 can now breathe a sigh of relief after Gisheru was found safe and sound, according to his father James Mwangi. A neighbor who often takes food to a children's home within Kasarani area spotted baby Franklin at the children's home and alerted the family.
Mama Jilani alikuwa ameenda kupeleka chakula huko children's home. So alienda na juni Jilani anajua kesi ya huyo mtoto, alienda akapata huyo mtoto huko. So immediately alipiga simu akasema twende tuangalie kama huyo mtoto ndiye tunatafuta. Kwenda huko tukapata yeye ndiye tulikuwa tunatafuta, ni mtoto wetu. So tulijawa na furaha sana na ilibidi tukuje huku Kasarani ndio tupewe barua ya kuchukua huyo mtoto.
Kasarani OCPD Mudhuri Mwongela says baby Franklin was dropped at the Kasarani police station on Thursday by a woman who told police officers that she collected him at a bus terminus in Githurai. She told officers that baby Franklin's name was Kenyanjui before she left.
Na jambo la kushangaza ni kwamba yule mama ambaye alileta huyu mtoto kutoka hiyo siku mpaka leo contact zake hatumfikii kwa maana hata tukipiga simu inaenda sijui ni mteja, lakini yeye alisema amemuokota na ni kama alikuwa anajaribu kuzuia sisi tupate fahamu zaidi. Jina yule mtoto huyu alilopatiana ni Kenyanjui. Yule tulikuwa tunatafuta ni Franklin Njenga. Na habari nilizo nazo ni kwamba mtoto alikuwa na attachment ya aina fulani na yule mama.
According to the police, the woman gave the wrong contact details and she is now being sought as a person of interest. Police believe that baby Franklin must have been in custody of his kidnappers as he is of good health. According to a medical examination conducted today, police believe he was dropped at the station after word spread that he had been missing.
Na kwa hivyo sina budi isipokuwa kumpatiana kwa mzazi, kwa maana tumeidentify huyu ndiye mzazi wake na huyu ndiye baba yake. Tumecompare yale majina ya baba yake hapa kwa ripoti zetu zote, na tuna uhakika kwamba tunayempatia sasa, tunayepatiana huyu mtoto kwake ndio wazazi wake.
Receiving back his son in his arms, James Mwangi wants police officers to get to the bottom of the kidnapping until baby Franklin abductors have been brought to book.
Ni shukrani tu mingi sana. Juu sasa kunaambia kwa kazi ya mzazi ni kuzaa tu mtoto. Lakini mtoto ni wa kila mtu. So wamenishikilia watu majirani wangu na sana sana watu wazima man. Wamenisaidia sana sana kupata mtoto. Kutoka siku yenye mtoto alipotea mpaka siku yenye amepatikana. Ni furaha sana kwa watu juu sasa walikuwa na imani mtoto tu atarudi.
As word spread out late at night that baby Franklin had been found safe and sound, celebrations broke out in Zimmerman Estate to welcome him back. This as Kasarani OCPD raises alarm over a spate of children abductions within Kasarani and sounding a warning to children kidnappers that their days are nigh. After baby Franklin Gishoro was finally reunited with his parents, detectives will be trying to piece together information that might lead to the arrest of his kidnappers, where he was for the last 27 days, and the identity of the woman who brought him to Kasarani Police Station. Mwangi Maina, TV 47 from Kasarani Police Station in Nairobi.
Well, what's important is that the baby is back home. That's quite interesting. But then again, to note the numerous cases that are on the rise as to children, being abducted is something that needs to be looked into. Well, as of course security agents would say, so much has been put towards ensuring this. Again, the buck stops with us to make sure that we are always keen to understand where our children are at what time, and what it is that they are doing, and make sure that we also equip them with information that will be helpful in the event that they land in trouble. And so joining me in studio this morning, as earlier on mentioned, Honorable Jimmy Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North, is on my farthest left. We have Dr. Eseli Simiyu Tongaren, Member of Parliament, who's right next to me. And in the middle is Wakili Ndego Wahome, Chair, County Assemblies Forum. Good to have you, gentlemen. And of course, now that we always start with the papers, I think it's only fair that we pick on that particular story. The last stories that we've touched on that has also been captured somewhere on the Daily Nation as to missing twins and the numerous cases that we've had over time. Are we really getting it right in terms of making sure that the children have a safe space, the women have a safe space? Because reality is that these cases are on the rise by the day, and it's no longer a joke.
Read my biggest question, and especially in the matters in the papers, on matters to do with this Franklin disappearance. The biggest question here, which is lingering, is what was the motive of the lady that took Franklin to the station? If she gave out a number that is now unreachable,
right? That
tells you there was a motive. It's only that probably that lady was a bit humor. That he decided to take this particular child to a safer place. But earlier intention, I don't think the motive was good.
Evidently not good.
Sure, why do you, after delivering such kind of magnitude job, then from there you switch off your phone and you are unreachable?
That's true.
It tells you that you don't want to be reached. Why?
But do you suppose then
that means you don't want the investigation to be taken then from where you want to close the chapter from there?
But again, with the numerous cases that we have today, do you think they would have done more probing, more probe, or conducted more probe on her? Because just to imagine that she's a good Samaritan and brought the baby, especially at this point when there are very many cases of abductions, and letting go of her, don't you think it's something that is questionable?
The biggest question is why, if you have got a good motive in such a kind of good Samaritan to care, and you have left behind your contacts, why don't you even want to the parent of that particular baby to reach you through your contact, if you are truly a good Samaritan?
Honorable Eseli Simiu, my argument then here is she to blame after all? Because, I mean, with the numerous cases of abductions that we have today, and someone just presents a baby from nowhere, would you just easily take a number and assume that you can lazily let go of her at this point in time? And I mean, even if she is a good Samaritan, in most cases there's that fear of the unknown, and therefore most of the people would not wish to leave their contacts. Do you suppose there could have been more probing as to this?
I think it reflects on the what we call the justice system in the country, the criminal justice system, in the sense that Kenyans have lost trust in the system. So with the heightened number of kidnappings that are going on, I'm sure this lady, whoever brought the baby, having a good heart, decided, let me take this baby to the police, but I don't want to be involved more after that. Mainly because the criminal justice system has actually been mishandling, especially the downtrodden, the people who are down there, they are really, really mishandled. So I guess this lady might have opted out that I'll take the baby, yes, but I don't want to be involved. It's a reflection on the failure of the criminal justice system. So she's just reflecting it. And I think it's something that we need to take seriously. Perhaps it might not be very good to condemn her unheard. Maybe if she can be found and we heard her side of the story. Because I just get the feeling, because many people right now don't even want to go and report crimes because they fear the outcome. They themselves get harassed when they have gone to report. And especially if you are somebody down there, they take you like a nobody. This is an experience we've seen all the time. And right now the communities, the society is going through a very stressful period. With this COVID downturn in economy, the economy is so bad. People are actually have lost their jobs. Some of them are leaving very early in the morning to go and hustle to just put food on the table. So the children don't have good care, because most of the parents are out hustling just for a living. And perhaps that's what's leading to the loss of so many of these children. And we need to realize that, because it's a very bad reflection on our society. Because the development of a society really is judged by how well the society treats its disadvantaged people, like children, women, the people with disadvantages. How the society treats them gives you an indication of the level of development of that society. And on that score, I think we've failed badly.
That's true.
Apart from sloganeering all over that all free medical care, sloganeering all over free education, what, just slogans, but they don't actually get to the real mwananchi down there.
That's true to say. Honorable Ndegwa Home, maybe these cases are not to the rise or have not yet hit Nyandarua County, but I can tell you Nairobi is notorious on this. This story that has been captured on page 3 of the Daily Nation speaks of a mother who's been in anguish for 8 cool months, having lost her twin babies. 8 cool months. No reports on whether they are dead. No reports on nothing. What does it speak of the justice system?
I think, Leader, and good morning, is that this is a sad turn of events. I think from the time that this matter started being part of our lives, that something of a kind of a national conversation should have zeroed in around that issue. It is now almost 2 years since this menace became part of our lives. But we have not even heard of the police establishing a special unit to deal with this particular issue, to bring in expertise so that we are able to stem this wave of abductions. And I think, as I said last time we were here, it is that the social fabric has broken down. And this mainly it's also informed by the economic hardships that we have in this country today. And because I don't believe that if you really want to have a child, that is the route to go, by going to abduct other people's children. There is an adoption, comprehensive legal regime around adoption in this country. And unless some of these people are not aware of that, then there might be some problem. Right. But the other issue is that you'll find that this is trafficking. Mainly people who are doing this are people with a criminal mind. And the main issue is that they have been given all the space by the security agencies to continue perpetrating these heinous actions. And they are making money out of it. And therefore it has become very lucrative. The police should ensure they make it very, very painful. They make it very expensive by ensuring that they confront it, and they put mechanisms in place that to steal a child becomes a very expensive affair, and that nobody will try to occupy that space.
All right.
Rita, I will tell you, and I will want to tell the society down there, that this is a big, big side kit. This side kit has not started yesterday. It has not started yesterday. And we need to understand and remember how we have undergone this serious whole balloon of this issue to do with children trafficking. And I can tell you, maybe like 10 or 15 years ago, there was a big business in this country. And let me tell you, it was involving bishops, pastors in the United, what we call Britain, pastors that were attending what we call the king's prayers, chaplain, and then you find a situation where the wife was in that particular cycle of this trafficking of child. And you realize that children who are on what we call business in that far end, that is out of the country, and where the business was made, and people are treating that as a miracle, that you have miracle have been performed, that you got a baby. And inside there, people knew what they are doing. They are just playing business. So I am telling you, we must have to understand from our inner person and understand the environment we are in, and characteristics of the people we are in. People might be pretending that they are very holy, very holy, but those people are very evil in their hearts and doing very, very evil things, evil motives, evil things in our society. You can't imagine that was a bishop. And he's in this kind of, inside this particular business. And then he's trying to convince people and the masses that he's praying miracles of my friend. I am telling you, this is a big matter. And unless government is serious enough with it, you cannot fight this kind of high balloons, because we have not seen that pastor being jailed. Tuliona tu wakati huo bado anashikiliwa na Ulaya na England, and he was secured. But when he was brought back here,
that's true. Well, it's unfortunate. If you realize these twins disappeared, after they left home going to church. And so sometimes you get to a point where you question yourself, well, if they go to church at all.
The biggest question is that, how do we trust each other?
That's true.
Because you can't know whether this person you trust too much, who pretends to be so holy, is the people with the knife to finish your child.
Well said. All right, well, we talk matters education briefly, and dirty tricks principals used to charge extra fees. It's been a cool, hectic 7 months or so to speak, because parents now have to dish out so much money. You find that in such a short span, you have had to pay school fees like thrice. But as though the head teachers do not understand that, they continue to make the school fees, shoot up by the day. Just what is the Ministry of Education doing to make sure that this is addressed? I mean, there's so much that is happening in the world of education. Hope for troubled gnat, as non-municipal teachers pay agency fee, and that also in the aspect of teachers who teach now to pay agency fee, and so much more also has been captured on the Standard newspaper in regards to matters education. As students go back to school, the reality is that there are others who've missed on bursary. There are others who are lucky enough to get bursary. Times are tough for parents, but after all, they have to struggle to make sure that their students are in school. Honorable Esteli Simiu.
First, you should realize that the matter of bursary has become so critical. Why? Because of the distress, the economic distress, lack of jobs, and lack of livelihoods for most parents. So that has made bursary so important now. That sort of indicts our education system and our economic system. Because if we are going to rely on bursaries to be able to educate our children, and most of these bursaries are actually coming from the government itself. Don't you see the fallacy of it? Because if these bursaries are like through CDF, through the county governments and so on, there are some which are private, like the equity and the banks and other corporate social responsibility events. But it's a real reflection that we are not managing our education system properly. Because the Ministry of Education, as far as I'm concerned, has failed to adequately audit and police the money that they disperse to schools. And that can create a problem, because I think there's a lot of leakage of those funds. And that is impacting negatively on the education system.
That's true.
So we need to relook at our education system comprehensively, because like you saw the university students rioting the other time when somebody wanted to increase the fees. Like if you increase the fees at the medical school by doubling or tripling it, simply what you are telling people is that children of the poor will never go and do medicine. Or if they have already done medicine and they are junior medical officers, they can never go for postgraduate training because the fees is hiked to almost stratospheric amounts. So that that means that this person, the salary they earn, will not be enough to pay for themselves fees to be a postgraduate student. So really, we are doing things that defeat our own education development, and we need to relook at it completely. Yes, the bursaries are helping so far, but is that the real solution for this country? Because the bulk of this money is coming from the government. What do we need to do to ensure that, despite the economic downturn, these children can still get quality education? And you can go the world over. You'll find places where there's free quality education for their children. And there's a system that they use. I think it was when Kibaki introduced it, it was well intentioned, but it has not been policed adequately. And you need to police it and make adjustments as you go along to perfect it. But I think we failed to do that, and we've let it run on autopilot to the point where now it's becoming a joke. You go to the villages, you tell them there's free primary education, they laugh at you. You tell them there's subsidized secondary education, they laugh at you. But
honestly, there is no free education, to be honest. Is there anything that one can actually point at and say there's free education? I keep saying this. A little boy who's still in kindergarten, what we now call PP1, PP2, is paying as much as 58,000, per term.
In a private or public? In a
private. And in public, if they go to public, the quality of education is questionable. The aspect of, saying that it's free in totality is questionable, because there are times where you're told, buy these books, buy this and all that. So is there free education at all?
Actually, Leader, when you talk about free education, it is actually laughable. Because you'll find that we have fee schedules for the government primary schools and secondary schools in this country. And actually they are classified. How much should be paid? Extra county schools, about 54,000. The county schools, that is something thousand. These schools, about 80,000. So you find that actually the talk about free education is purely double speak. And you also hear that the policymakers will always issue very sweeping statements about how Kenyan education is free, but that is not the reality. And we put teachers, and especially principals and head teachers, in very compromising situations, because they have to ensure that education and running in the institutions continue, but then there is no support. Even when monies are being allocated for this education, you'll find that very critical factors like inflation are not taken into consideration. You also find that when the monies are being applied to these pupils, they are applied evenly. There is no audit on the status of these children, because the needs of one children are not the needs of the other children. So there must be some serious input and discourse around this area, so that money is applied where it is needed most. And Therefore, it is I sympathize with the teachers. Also, the releases of these monies. You find that this money, sometimes it is delayed as much as 6 months. Yeah. I have a chairman of a board of governors in 2 schools, and I know the kind of problems that our teachers are in. The bursary, where Mheshimiwa Gakuya and Mheshimiwa Daktari, they distribute bursaries from the CDF. CDF had delayed almost for a year. They went out there in the public and promised to give bursaries, but they are not forthcoming because Treasury has not released this money. Therefore, these are matters that it is not a problem per se emanating from the teachers. It is the policy makers and implementers to ensure at least the basic that should go to the schools actually should go there. And then the teachers and the parents can come together and decide how to ensure that the running continues smoothly to ensure that we secure the future of our children and for this country at large.
Well, it's I brief that in fact in the areas of what is called policy regulations are well catered for. What we are lacking is goodwill. Because if we have goodwill with our children, I think we cannot play politics with the lives of our children and with the future of our children. Because everybody is much aware. But where do you start nurturing? You start nurturing a tree from the bottom up. But there's no way you can nurture a tree when it is a grown-up tree. It's already a waste and you cannot manage it. In this particular case, I want to say this. Any sitting government of the day, it is its duty to make sure that the children are in classroom learning and enjoying quality services. Quality learning. One, you must think about who is this tutor in the school. Have you done the best to her so that she is motivating that children in the school, or you just have a stooge there who is just there because it's a duty of every day to be in a school. I can tell you for sure, at that particular time that we take back our mind to Uniways and think ourselves, what are we providing to this country? Are we really serious and committed in giving future of this nation? Yes, how do we go about this? We must start from the top. This is the government. The government, Kibaki did very well. And I can tell you, everybody felt that there is what we call free primary school. At this particular time, I believe the economy has grown tremendously from the level where Kibaki left it. We are now dealing with budgets of 3.6 trillion. Are we not capable of making sure that we can safeguard, like we say 600 million, and repurpose it to education, where we must think and take consideration that there is, as my good has put it very clear, we are not taking audits because our children are not coming from the same environment. You have children that have come from well-to-do that does not require any assistance in the coming up because their parents are. But we have those parents that, let me tell you, whether you like it or not, they are in that situation, and you must take them the way they are and accept it. And these are the people who are forgotten, and we are just assuming that every parent is equivalent to any other parent. Mahoha must wake up as the head of the ministry. He must make sure that, in fact, there is audit. We must know in a school how many children cannot be able to offer any single penny. This does not mean they are orphans, but they have parents that are incapable, and economically they cannot. What do you do with this kind of people? The government must set aside facilitation for these children. Otherwise, we cannot subject every children into bursary. Bursaries are selective, and they are never equitable.
And they're never enough.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they're never enough.
All right.
And politics are too much in these bursaries. It is not a solution.
All right. Well, interestingly, as we close on the papers, there's this interesting story that I'd love to hear your view on the same. I don't know whether it's long overdue. Now that you speak of the aspect of audit, and the Auditor General has recommended that the rates of government houses be reviewed upwards for that matter. As at June last year, the government had a total of about 56,892 houses across the country, which could have earned more than about 1.5 billion. Of course, according to the Auditor General, in the event that the review would be, of course, in relation to the latest market rates. Civil servants to start paying more for rent. The State Department has been losing hundreds and hundreds of millions, according to the Auditor General. Do you suppose that these occupants of our government houses then will receive this well? We understand how friendly the houses have been in terms of pricing. We've seen people actually not even living there. They have the houses, but they rent them out to other individuals just because, well, it's indeed quite a good deal. How then will this augur to the people? Especially at this point when you also know that there's no review of salaries upwards, for at least 2 years.
I think, first of all, let's start from where the rain started beating us. The issue of public servants having to pay for the houses they live in was introduced by the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank, IMF, and so on. Otherwise, previously, one of the perks of being a civil servant was getting free housing. And that was a motivating factor. And perhaps that's why we had civil servants who worked very efficiently, because they didn't have worries about housing. Then the Bretton Woods institutions came in and said, no, you can't give free housing, they have to pay rent. And it has become a norm now that public servants have to pay rent. And this has become the biggest problem, whereby you find, for example, at a hospital, a doctor who is supposed to be on duty is living far away because they have to look for a cheaper house to rent. So by the time they are called to hospital, it becomes a problem. And yet, initially, when I first joined the medical profession, we were housed. We were housed, and it was free. And it was very good because I was near Kenyatta National Hospital. I could walk to the wards. If maybe the doctor who is on duty is too pressed, the pressure is too much. He could even call on us and we go and assist because the pressure is too much. And things worked very well. But now when you insist that they have to pay rent, and now you as you say it yourself, you find the house is in a good location and can fetch very good rent, and you are an underpaid public servant, so you rent it out and go and stay elsewhere. So this was a mistake which was brought on us by the structural adjustment programs of the World Bank and IMF, and we need to relook at it, because the World Bank thinks that one suit fits all, without looking at the circumstances. Free housing was part of the incentive of having these public servants, so that if you are, say, for example, a permanent secretary, you are housed in a very good area, locality, and it's free. So that was part of the incentives. So when you remove that incentive, now you have frozen salary increments, and then you say you want to increase the rents. How do you increase the rents when you have frozen salary increments? You are just eating more into that public servant's income. So I think it's okay, the rents are still lower than market rate, but then what exactly do we aim to achieve?
And that's the biggest problem. If we are to raise this to the market rate.
In any case, more than those public houses, most of those government houses, more than half were lost. They were grabbed long time ago.
True to it. There are people who own them years and years. And I even remember the ones who were supposed to be, of course, they were supposed to vacate from them. They were complaining. They said, we've been here for years and years. My grandmother, my who and who stayed here. Who are you to tell us to come? I mean, they have
I want to interject.
Yes.
Because I've been in this city for long, and I understand how this worked. And you find that most of the estates we have that actually we adopted from the former local authorities now to the current status of county. You find that areas like Maringo, Shaurimoyo, Bahati, all the way to Jerusalem, all the way to Uhuru, those are areas of bungalows. Bungalows which have no value to the city. But if you touch these people without proper arrangement, then they feel victimized, and actually can't be able to put them out, because actually this is where they live and this is where they call themselves their homes. But I will tell you, what we are lacking is proper planning as a nation, and serious planners. Here we have an issue of a money provider, a money service provider, who is IMF and World Bank. These people are in business. How smart are they that actually you have become a dependent on them all through your life? And these are guys in business. Why can't you make sure that your country has harnessed your resources and put together enough resources, and then you have an entity like CBK. A nation that is well planned and prudently using resources. I am telling you, this country does not require to beg any single penny from outside. We are getting conditionalities because we are beggars. And we have we have reached to a point of beggars. Now China has closed their doors. Our only door is IMF. So, because we are beggars, you must kneel. And you must accept every conditionalities. Why are we putting us to this kind of situation? Where are we getting wrong? It tells you we are missing a step somewhere. And what is it? We are lacking what we call proper planning and proper implementation. And therefore, that's why we cannot reap enough. We have a lot of resources that we cannot reap enough and resource them together so that at least we can get enough for us. Then we imagine we have a tax what we call targets. Tax targets that even during this particular critical time of pandemic, we collected almost our targets. But where are we going wrong after collecting all these? Because we are poor in planning and implementation. Do you know where we go wrong? We plan, like now we have 3.6 trillion budget. And in the area of projection, where we expect to do what we call project. Let me tell you, everything that is for project is purely borrow. Okay. You borrow internally, you borrow externally. So, and what you are borrowing to, or borrowing for, you have not done proper mathematics, how this will assist you in repaying back.
Right.
You have a monster like SGR. SGR is here, but actually who is reaping? It is China, not this country. Yeah. They will be in that particular business for 10 years, and China is going to leave this country when those bogies will be shells. Those engines will be done, and they will leave the country when they have reaped enough from it. What do you do next? You just beg to them, give us tafadhali tupatie vichwa zingine za bogies, then you get back to loan, you get back to borrow. Then be smart, become smart, be proper and prudent in your planning and your implementation. I don't know where Kenya is getting wrong. Because Kenya has been a light path. I don't know where we have gone twist.
Wow, interesting.
But sincerely, I can tell you, there's something wrong. We have this gentleman here. He's a leader, somebody who has been appointed to take charge. But politically, somebody is just admiring for the failure of the whole county. What's wrong with this? There is a madness within ourselves. And unless we realize where we are going wrong, we are taking this country to dogs.
All right.
Okay,
all right. Maybe, Rida, I fully associate myself with the sentiments by my colleagues here. And I think that we just need to soberly look at these issues and be able to reach solutions, because solutions are there. And Kenya, we are very good at developing blueprints on how to do things, to make things happen. But when it comes to implementing, it's a very big problem. And again, I think we are also lazy. When we come with policies that have not done specific sector audits to ensure that we address the needs and concerns of particular sectors. Like Dr. here has said, like the doctors. These doctors, they should pay their rents from salaries paid by the government. And therefore, the government should be able to allocate sufficient money for their accommodation, and so that even if they build the houses, they know the monies they have allocated for housing is enough to accommodate them at that particular place. And the other areas is that once we create the accommodation and we even do the proper valuation for the rent payable, then I don't think there would be any problem with that, because the demand has always been bigger than the supply. And there are so many civil servants who would want to come into these houses and pay at the cost that the auditor is suggesting. Therefore, I think we have a problem. The main issue is that we don't normally, as Mheshimiwa says, we don't normally do things for the larger interest of this country and for posterity. Whatever, even most of the policies, Rida, surprisingly and unfortunately, policies that are being developed in this country today, they are developed with very clear and deliberate objectives, not to meet the objectives of the tomorrow of this country, but some individual and present objectives for personal aggrandizement, for personal benefit, which is very unfortunate. Let us just open our eyes and know that we have a country to take care of.
Right.
We have our children to take care of who need a very solid future from us. And that way, we might be able to drive the agenda for this country.
Well, as of course one would say, The biggest question then would be how sustainable is that, even if these people have their own interest, their very own interest, because then sometimes you have to look at the bigger picture. That way you're able to reap small, but for a long time. That aside, let's get to the conversations of the day, and we discuss first the NASA revival, if there is any. I am curious to understand where Honorable Iseli Simiyu sits in terms of whether he is part of the One Kenya Alliance. At least that one we know he's not, yeah? But the biggest question is, are you part of the NASA coalition still? Which I am told the One Kenya Alliance is in a mission to quash 100% and have some of the members of the NASA coalition exit so that this agreement is quashed in totality and a conversation of opening a new coalition then is on.
You know, there are some things that happen in politics and they are very interesting. Just after Senator Moses Wetangula was removed as minority leader,
okay,
I advised them that, you know, this is an opportunity to break off from NASA and form the opposition now that ODM is cooperating with Jubilee, so that you fill that space, that void of the opposition. If they had done that at that time, they would be far ahead of Deputy President William Ruto. But they left that vacuum for too long, and William Ruto filled it. Now they are realizing lately, now they want to take the same thing I had advised them that time.
Okay.
Here now they want to have a joint PG on Friday. I told them to have that joint PG years ago. They were not moving.
Okay.
So what happened was, there were people then within that group who held certain positions, and they didn't want to let go. So they sort of scuttled all that. But now that they have been removed from those positions, now they are willing to move. So these are all just selfish moves. However, all said and done, it's okay for people to try and position for themselves for the coming general election. So I would only talk about Ford Kenya in the sense that I don't think Ford Kenya has positioned itself very well to be able to effectively participate in either alliance building, coalition building, in readiness for the next election.
Right.
Because one, the party has been at war for the last 14 months. It has been at war. So that even if you talk of forming or leaving a coalition to form another, the party organs are in disarray. And those are the party organs are the ones that are supposed to okay these things.
Yeah.
They are all in disarray, such that the Wetangula faction is out there trying to change the membership of the party organs through some underhand methodologies, like going to the grassroots and changing the leaders who are elected at the grassroots so that they put in what they consider friendly to them, so that they can have a sort of friendly organs. And it's getting late. They don't have those organs. So really, Ford Kenya is in a very bad state. I don't think we are well positioned to be able to effectively negotiate with others in this alliance building and so on.
When you say that you will soon unravel the arrangements that are there in terms of formation of proper structures, what then are you targeting? Because I would want to believe that as a party, there's always the big prize. So what is the target in this particular case?
Right now, I would say that the organs that do exist, because 2019, there was actually a grassroots election. But getting the NDC, it never happened. And by the Ford Kenya Constitution, we are supposed to have elections every 4 years, including the NDC. But the last such election was in 2011. So it's now 10 years. And we've only had one grassroots election in 2019, which was supposed to culminate in an NDC, which never happened. So right now, based on that grassroots elections, which went up to the county level, it means that we have elected leaders to form the General Council. We have elected leaders to form the NDC, which has not been convened. Now, when the NDC is convened, is when they'll elect the National Executive Council. And the National Executive Council that's there now, which I belong to as the Secretary General, is in office illegally. Because we've been there for 10 years without elections. So really, our term lapsed in 2015, when we were supposed to have had the NDC.
What would be the noble thing to do? Wouldn't you easily say then that I am no longer the Secretary General?
We are all in office illegally.
Okay.
And that conscience has been
so you are swimming in
for very long, and that's why last year we called for an NDC, and Wetangula again went to court and blocked it.
Okay.
So
what is his fear? Yes.
His fear.
You read my mind.
His fear is that if an NDC were called with the officials who were elected in 2019, they were not going to re-elect him as the party leader.
And do you suppose that that's why that is the main target, that you really want to root him out?
Well, for now, that's what we wanted to do, because he's not been an effective leader to grow the party.
All right.
His struggle to hold on to it is purely for selfish reasons.
Honestly speaking, looking at Ford Kenya maybe, and the leaders that are in Ford Kenya, who appears to be more formidable in this leadership? Even Wafula Wamunyinyi himself is not always out here, as we would see. Most of the Tangula.
You see what media does? They give the leaders the airtime.
Is it so?
Yes.
Do you think it is the case?
Because by the way, the amount of airtime you would give to, say, Mutula Kilonzo Jr. and to Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka is different.
Okay.
Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka will get more airtime.
Right.
So what happens here is, if you look at the political persuasions, most parties are losing ideology. The real sense is Ford Kenya is a center-left party being run by a rightist.
Okay.
So you see the clash of interests. And that's why Ford Kenya now has been unable to rise to the occasion where it used to be the defender of the people.
Coming back to Ford Kenya.
So that's where the problem
is. But Honorable Wahome,
allow me just
those differences in ideology.
Before we move to Wahome,
yes.
And my biggest concern is because we have such situations in the past, where in one thing we had the original Ford, and the original Ford splitted into two, where we got the Ford Ford Kenya and the Ford Yasiri.
Right.
And thereafter, the Ford Kenya also splitted, because when they moved for an election, when it was under Wamarwa at Thika with Raila Amolo Odinga, the fight broke up. And after that fight, that's when Raila Amolo Odinga formed his party. I believe it was NDP then. But at the point now, the situation of Ford Kenya is, I am finding it so difficult for them to harmonize again. Because it has taken a long age, and we are almost now moving to an election. If they cannot be able to have sorted themselves before this December, then it will be too late.
Right.
Then I think what is outside here is that because Wetangula cannot move out of politics, and he feels he has mighty on the grassroots, and then the best he should do, he feels that actually he was the propeller of this party. But now he has no power, the power is with the membership. And then he cannot also skip to be within the constitution of the party. But since now it has arrived to this situation, me, if I was wise enough as Wetangula, I would advise for a split of this party.
Is it so?
How
safe would that be?
No, this one,
right.
What a Secretary General na timu yake wapate portion inaitwa either Ford Kenya na yeye apate portion yake either Ford Kenya B ama itwa Ford Kenya something ama awe bold enough kama Wamaro kama Wetangula atafute chama ingine asonge nayo. Awachie wazee Ford Kenya wasonge.
I'd love to know how wise and how easy a split would be.
Surely, the fear he is in is too bad fear, and it will cause the party very badly. How will the party, because now the situation they are in is that they cannot move out of NASA, because the agreement which was launched to the party's registrar is that there has to be two parties to pull out. Three parties. Then how do they pull out if Wetangula has no party and he has no mantle to talk on behalf of Ford Kenya in this representation?
It's going to be interesting to watch, Honorable Ndegwa Wahome. And when we speak about Ford Kenya, we understand it's the oldest party, one of the respected parties that enjoys support across the country. But reality is that many have boiled it down to it appearing as though it's a Mulembe Nation party. How more of a damage does it do to the long wished for, Mulembe unity?
Actually, leader, I am not very much into the mechanics of Ford Kenya.
Yes.
But then from an observer's view, is that I think also our judiciary is complicating things in terms of sustaining the democratic space. Because if I was the judge sitting where that particular judge was sitting in the case for the Daktari and the Wetangula on the other hand, this is a matter about who is the legitimate leader of Ford Kenya.
Right.
And I would have expected that the judge would have called both parties there and within a few days, 7 days, at most 21 days, get them to go back to elections, right, and be able to put together a party that will galvanize the legitimacy that is required. Because at the end of the day, we have had burger parties where only the leader knows where the party is going. We need to involve everybody in the management of these parties if we have to have democratic institutions, starting with the political parties. Because in Kenya, the way we are dispositioned, politics is almost everything. Right. And therefore, for me, is that it might be a very simple issue, and I don't know what would be the take of the Daktari, that the court orders within time, let the list are known, the delegates are known, let these people go to elections and get their legitimate leaders so that the party can move on.
That is the main option that is being fronted.
The courts have not been very fair to us. Because the Political Parties Act is
when you say clear. To us, you mean to
Ford Kenya.
To Ford Kenya generally.
Because the Political Parties Act is very clear. That's when we formed the Political Parties Disputes Tribunal. And the Disputes Tribunal has got a time limit when to sort out political disputes. 3 months. But now, these people avoided the tribunal and went to the High Court. Now matters have been stuck in the High Court for 14 months. And with the Appeal Court for 6 months. So it is just the courts are now the ones determining whether Ford Kenya will exist or not, which is justice delayed is justice denied.
Second, do you think that there is somebody who's sitting on the matter in the court?
You know these days.
Actually, most likely there is what we call
these days.
Deliberate.
I'll tell him to do that.
You know what happens is that all of us Kenyans are in fear of the judiciary. So what you are trying to push me to say, I will not say. Because if you are a Kenyan and you might one day end up before the judiciary, you avoid saying anything. Because if you appear to say anything against them, you know what they will do to you. So that's the problem with this country. It's not that the judiciary is immune to these problems. They are part of us. The judges are part of our society. The magistrates are part of our society. The justice system is part of our society. So what Mheshimiwa was trying to push me to say, I'll not say. The only thing I'll say is that justice delayed is justice delayed.
What about a split as he proposes?
Well, a split would not be a very good thing, but if it were to happen, it would be a very unfortunate outcome. Okay. But I would like to debunk the myth that Ford Kenya is purely Western. Yes, that's the stronghold. But yesterday we had a meeting with over 30 county chairs, and they were from all over the country, from coast, from eastern, the only people missing were central. Others, Rift Valley and Nyanza and Western were all represented. Okay. And you will find that the party is actually very vibrant there. The reason why we were pushing out Wetangula was he has failed to galvanize the grassroots of the party, such that the party appears to be Western only. But if you go to Coast, for example, it's very active. So they are active, but sort of constrained by lack of support. And the top leadership, which includes me, have not really galvanized the grassroots. So you'll be surprised. If you go to Meru now, our branch there is very active, very active. They have already sourced 4 candidates ready for the next election. Yes. So this being now reduced to a Western affair is one of the reasons why we were getting Wetangula out of the way, because we felt that he was, because like you find every weekend, he's in Western.
He's in Western Kenya.
Every weekend, he's in Western. No, not just Western, Bungoma and Trans-Nzoia, nowhere else. So
that means there's no other place where he could traverse as a presidential candidate.
Yet if we went anywhere he went in this country, he'll find party structures. Okay. They are there.
All right.
Such that he doesn't, in fact, what they will do, and that's my biggest fear, is that they might use those structures now to help them popularize One Kenya Alliance, because he himself has failed to use them. for himself.
For himself.
Because when you talk about who will be the presidential candidate for One Kenya Alliance, does his name feature?
No. Apparently
so then that's one of the things that has killed Ford Kenya.
Okay.
Because for a party to grow, you must have presidential candidates. You cannot run for, now this will be the fourth election without a presidential candidate.
Yes.
The party can't grow. Yet he keeps on going to the grassroots in Western and telling people, I'm going to run for president, I'm going to run for president. When the time comes, he goes for Senate.
And actually, Rita,
yes.
You know, I empathize with my Mheshimiwa here. Because you ask yourself sometimes, you are a party leader, yes. Where do you want to take this party?
Yeah.
What is the end result?
Ask him what Wafula Wamunyinyi is going to do in terms of pushing this party to the next level.
But remember, Wafula Wamunyinyi is interim.
It's interim, but is that push to make sure that he's there in the event that he is there?
Pending the NDC.
Yes.
That's when we put him there as interim, we will then now call for the NDC.
Okay.
Whereby we were going to elect new officials, which included from the party leader downwards.
And I believe that any person...
Is it not a breach of law to put an interim leader, at a point where there is another leader? And I mean, it's in the same scenario, because we are talking about Secretary General. How many Secretary Generals are there?
I'm the only Secretary
You are the only Secretary.
Yeah.
So why is it that you'd want to be the only Secretary General and no interim Secretary General, so to speak?
It's not that I want. In fact, the reason why we're calling for the NDC, we felt that we needed an injection of new blood.
Well, why not respect the fact that Wetangula is still there, and therefore wait until then this process is done?
He should have subjected himself to the NDC.
Okay.
Yes. If he won at the NDC, he'll have cemented his leadership. But why has he avoided NDC for 10 years?
Okay.
And actually, Leader, maybe I cut short Mheshimiwa. And Leader, I think the issue of Ford Kenya, even when Wafula Wamunyinyi was coming in, because I'm very interested in these issues, is that they met. An organ of the party met, and when Wamunyinyi was coming in, Wetangula had been ousted.
Yes.
And that is why he went to court and got a relief.
Yes.
And the Mheshimiwa Shiteri was never removed. Therefore, there is no issue of an interim person coming in to occupy that position.
Okay.
So these issues are so clear. And I'm telling you, if the judiciary comes in and it decides it wants a solution to this issue, it is taking Ford Kenya back to the people.
Okay.
And the people will come out with the solutions. Who is their leader? A person who will take the Ford Kenya to the next level.
Right.
When we talk about political formations in this country, you can never leave out Ford Kenya. But as of today, when you talk about Ford Kenya, really what are you talking about?
But may I have a concern? And my concern is for posterity of this party. I also think that every official here has a take to play, and sometimes, as much as we emulate, we are convinced that Wetangula is not taking this party or outside a region where it has it is seen as it is where it comes. I also want to take a caution where Wamunyinyi is coming in, because Wamunyinyi, if there is a court order which bars him to be the chair, I don't know the position of Wetangula, whether he is a party leader there before or whether he was a chairman of the party. But I also find it difficult. How do they harmonize if now not the court? So if the court has a delay, I think these gentlemen, because they have what we call a second thought, I think it's also advisable, I can advise them, they also take themselves somewhere, because we are heading to an election where the party will be in a limbo, because it's now, despite the powers of Secretary General are extraordinary, he can sign the certificates, he can do anything else, but now the chair, who will be the chair in case the chair has anywhere to commit in signature for the party. So in this particular case, I would urge that, yes, the tribunals are there, they may not assist you, the judiciary is there, it may not assist you, but for the purposes of this particular election, I think the team which is currently there can cede some kind of some part of the burning pressure, and try to cocoon, bring this Cruz, this Wetangula.
Right.
For the prosperity of this party, I agree that yes, for the sake of the party, Wamunyini step down. Let Wetangula take over, and then we conclude this race for this particular session. Then from there, as we proceed, because NDC can be done between now and December, but I am sure Wetangula will not allow, because he is kicked out at this time, then he is a bigger loser. And it is not easy for him to prepare another party and propel it and brand it to a level that the Ford Kenya is at this particular point. But in their wisdom, I think as
the troubles appear to be
especially the Secretary General, he's a strong man, and actually he's a man with a lot of wisdom. I think he can bring the top neck on a sitting, and then they see how they can bring them out of the box. Then they decide how do we move to election for this purpose of only.
I think what many people don't know is the reason how I became Secretary General. After the 2007 elections, the members of Ford Kenya had come into Parliament as NAC, as PNU. Was the only one elected on the Ford Kenya ticket. So,
in the whole republic.
In the whole republic. So I became like the custodian of Ford Kenya, and that's how I became Secretary General.
Okay.
It's been a long haul, and after the 2017 election, I made it very clear to the party organs that we want elections up to NDC level so that I can relinquish this position that I've held so long, so that somebody else can take it up. Now that I'm not the only Ford Kenya MP, there are so many of us and other leaders. And then it kept on dragging on. From 2017, we are not going anywhere. 2018, we are not going anywhere. Till 2019, when I had to source for some funds by my individual effort to kickstart the grassroots elections. After we kickstarted the grassroots elections, we encouraged our members to pay a fee. So part of the fee that they paid is what helped to complete the grassroots elections, except Turkana.
Okay.
Now, after the grassroots elections in 2019, the next thing was the NDC. It's stalled again. You say, let's go for NDC, people just go round and round and round and round and round. Then I realized, there is a fear, because when you visit the grassroots, everybody was complaining about the party leader. He's not visiting us. Last elections, he mistreated us. He didn't give us the support we required. We didn't want his money. He would just come and campaign with us. He didn't come. And when he did come, he avoided us. So there were so many complaints throughout the country. That's when I realized, this gentleman seems to be fearing NDC because he thinks they will throw him out.
Okay.
For me, it didn't matter because I was not intending to defend my position.
Your position, right.
In fact, I had been talking to a few other people to see who would be interested in the position. Okay. And I would perhaps take a back seat to just show them.
Why would you want to take a back seat? Is it quite a tough?
It's a tough job. Secretary General is very taxing and very expensive. I know there's no salary. For a party like Ford Kenya, which doesn't receive any political party's funding, you don't get any salary. So you have to keep on dipping in your pocket to actually keep some things running. So it was a situation where I was willing to take a back seat, get somebody else, show him the ropes, even if I was to take another position in the party, but less trainers than what I've held as Secretary General.
Okay.
So that was it was clear, it was known. I had no further interest in running the position, but I think Wetangula himself wanted to continue. And I think he feared that if he called the NDC that time, it would be a problem, because after he went to court and realized the court will not be our solution, we called for an NDC using the constitution of the party. It was supposed to have been held in November. He again went to court and stopped it.
All right.
Secretary, I would just urge the Secretary, persuade him very, very, very stiffly that he revisited the matter and at least reconsider taking what we call temporary measures for the posterity of this party to be either in any coalition. There is no coalition that this party will be in without a formalization. Therefore, the mantle you have taken for that particular time is good enough to bring this party out of this rebel.
And as you would rightfully put it, the grassroots in order, so they are failing the grassroots at the top.
At this point, just clear this stalemate. NDC seems to be difficult at this time, but find a way. How do you get into any new arrangement before December?
Okay. Actually, Linda, maybe my last word on this. I'd want to say that the only solution for Ford Kenya, and this is not only for Ford Kenya, for the democratic space, political party democratic space in this country, is to take the parties to its owners and let the owners make decisions, so that even legitimacy is there. When I'm being removed as the speaker for Nyandarua, I have always gone to court and I told the court, I want us to go back to court. Let us go and vote, so that I have legitimacy as the speaker of Nyandarua. And all the 3 votes, Kimemia and his cohorts, they are not able to remove me. The numbers are very clear. So when I come here and I work in Nyandarua and across the country as the chairman of all the assemblies, I have legitimacy that despite all the machinations of Kimemia, Tuju and everybody to remove me, I went back to my constituency and I have been sustained as the speaker. The only legitimacy that our learned senior Wetangula will get, let the matter go back to the NDC, to the owners of Ford Kenya. Let the Ford Kenya supporters get their legitimate leadership.
All right, well, interesting views right there on matters Ford Kenya. We still have more to touch on, and therefore we'll take a quick short break, come back, discuss, of course, this NASA revival briefly, now that we've discussed so much in Ford Kenya, and probably related to the same. And also we do not forget to discuss this talk on whether there could be an election postponement come next year, and just how healthy or unhealthy that would be for the democratic space in the country after this break. Why crocodile inaweza tokea juu. Hiyo sijakula hata unataka nikufe kabla ni. I don't like it. I don't. Miss Kai na hipo ikitokelezea ivuruche simu yangu. No, ni sawa. Those who know me will tell you I'm not a lover of large volumes of water. But for you, we rove the different parts of the country and beyond just to make sure that we bring you the experience. We educate you, we entertain you, and we inform you.
That it's not political and it can do something.
As we sail the boat of Morning Cafe to enlighten you, entertain you, and inform you every Monday to Friday, only on TV47.
Woo. Construction can be quite a task, but how do you move from finding your piece of land, sourcing the right materials, getting the right labor force to put up your building? Or better yet, how do you source for a building that's already built?
Just a small size of land can suit just a big maisonette because you are going high.
How do you ensure you get the right finishes to bring out the aesthetic value of your property and make it not only look good, but also feel good?
The buyers in this area are the buyers who are able to pay cash.
Well, we have it right here on The Realtor on TV47, where we demystify building right here in Kenya and analyze the property industry for you to take advantage when acquiring your next piece of property.
Every February, we hear men joking about going to a men's conference on Valentine's Day. We laugh about it, the lucky ones end up having a decent Valentine's Day, and we move on. But what we do not know is that men actually do meet up. Men do sit down and have conversations about things that affect their day-to-day life.
Let me ask, does money make the man?
Give them the gifts, shower them with everything you want to shower them with, but keep your money to yourself.
I, for one, have always been curious as to what goes on in a man's mind, specifically an alpha male's mind.
Adam, yule kwa Biblia anasema ni mtu wa kwanza duniani. Wewe unadhani kama angekuwa hana yale matunda, hana ile garden yake pale ya kukaa, angekuwa tu ni mdomo tu anamfuata Hawa. Oya, mimi ni Adam.
Welcome to the men's conference, where we make men alpha males. My name is Archie, the only female allowed at the conference.
My name is Monica Nyashira Njogona. I am a wife and a mother of 3, and I am a crochet ambassador. This began some years ago when I could not find a white-collar job. I had done a course in IT. I looked for jobs everywhere and I could not find one. So I had a lot of time in my hands, and I had an idea to do crochet.
So we have a WhatsApp group. There are about 3 WhatsApp groups. They are actually full. We've been sharing information, consulting, and just encouraging each other. But surprisingly, the challenges we've been experiencing are similar. So we just try to find a way of managing our challenges. Then all of a sudden there's a challenge coming up, and that is organized by the Hazina Institute.
We realized that many people had lost their jobs. Some businesses were downsizing or closing, and therefore people were at home. Plus we had the government directives for people to work at home and avoid so much going outside. And we thought this would be a good initiative, not just to keep people busy, but also to deal with their mental health. The most basic stitch is a chain stitch.
All right, still with me, Honorable Jimmy Gakuya, Member of Parliament in Bakassi North, Dr. Isili Simiyu Tongaren, Member of Parliament, Wakili Ndegwa Wahome, Chair, County Assemblies Forum. And briefly, gentlemen, let's talk these matters of NASA. I'll pick these words. I'm coming to you, Honorable Ndegwa Wahome. Confused lots, of course, as the DP would refer to, when he speaks of the NASA coalition, he would say that, well, they are a confused lot that, is trying to drag the president into their mess. And as Senator Mutula Kilonzo then would say, probably the DP and President Uhuru Kenyatta are taking NASA for a ride, as seen by, of course, Mutula Kilonzo, evidently based on what it is that we've seen previously, and the aspect of wanting to treat them to the embarrassment of endorsement politics. What do you make of these two statements?
I think confusion, Rinda, is another statement.
Okay.
When you look at the One Kenya Alliance and
NASA coalition,
with the NASA coalition, because these guys, they are not the authors of their destiny. It is as if they are waiting for something to happen. And I don't know exactly what they expect to happen. When Kalonzo meet with Raila Odinga, they are talking about that NASA will still be there and they are able to work things out and move on. When they are at separate venues, they will talk at cross purposes. And actually, today they are pulling out of NASA.
Yes.
And they are never pulling out. Since the Kibra by-elections, the NASA was dying. And actually, the Secretary General of ODM declared NASA as dead. I've had Honorable Musalia Mudavadi at different times, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Moses Wetangula also declaring NASA as dead. And again, yesterday, they were also again saying they are going to kill it again. And I ask myself, how many times are we going to kill this NASA thing and be able to move on? I think these guys are waiting in the wings for something to happen, which I doubt will ever happen. My advice to them, Kaidre, be the authors and define your own destiny. Politics, space is not created for anybody. You fight for it, you create for yourself, and when you define the future where you want to go, you lay the infrastructure and you work on it.
Okay. All right. For the very first time, I would say, or not really the very first time in a very long time, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi has been on a charm offensive in the vote-rich Mount Kenya region. That is over the weekend. That is ahead of the August 9, 2022 presidential contest. As many would argue, Honorable Isili Simiyu, the reality on ground is that we have the DP as one key contender that, of course, has sent chills in the spines of many, and maybe Right Honorable Raila Odinga in the event that he declares his interest, which he's not. But as they would rightfully put it, a coalition or working together is one of the key things that would block DP. One, why should it be about blocking the DP? And two, do you suppose then these coalitions that they speak of, Musalia Mudavadi would be the only face that would be a threat to the DP?
Now, I've not done any opinion polling to be able to...
Okay, well, based on at least what we read around.
What I perceive is that each of them is aware of their weakness, and they realize that they cannot each go on their own. So they feel that if they combine their strengths, then they'll be more formidable.
Yes.
But all that said and done, they need to have proper survey of the country to know who among them actually does command any following that they can actually back up with. So it's you know, the thing is, it's called political science, but many politicians want to do the politics without the science.
Yeah.
So they need to really look at the science of it and see which best way it works. For me, in a nutshell, I would say that the One Kenya Alliance is more of a center-right coalition. I just wonder how Ford Kenya fits in there, because as I said earlier, Ford Kenya is a center-left party.
Right.
It's a social democratic ideals. When Kibaki took over this country, they were in coalition with Ford Kenya, and some of the things that Kibaki brought on the table were actually Ford Kenya's proposals, like things, the issue of social safety nets for the down people. That's why you get free primary education starting that time, and we were pushing to have free healthcare modeled on the NHS system in the UK. So these are some of the ideals of Ford Kenya. But where they
Ford
are,
Kenya fit
where they are
back
now,
then well in NASA coalition. How different was that?
because the NASA coalition also included the people like ODM, who are also center left.
All right.
Yeah. So it was more a matching coalition, if you really follow the ideals of what the party was formed for. And also the party might have those ideals, but the people running that party, are they following those ideals? Because if they're not following those ideals, then they're in the wrong place.
Okay.
That's why I said that Ford Kenya being a center-left party, right from inception and by their constitution, I find it very interesting how it will fit with people who are actually center-rightists.
Okay. Yeah. Come in, and that's an interesting way. I don't know how the others would view that statement or how they would, of course, receive that statement. But even aside from that, why is it that it appears like it's a battle against the DP as opposed to a battle towards making Kenya better?
Rida, I can tell you that's the biggest question, because I still believe that if these contenders believe in themselves, then there is no single time they will be making statement that if we don't unite, we are not going to beat Ruto. Yeah. Then it's already that, in fact, there is already identified candidate who has made them to be in a state of fear that this man is ahead of us, and unless we unite, we cannot beat this man. Then this is if this is the answer they have. I appreciate the narrative that Dr. has brought here. Political science. In politics, you must do what we call political analysis. And science is inside there. Because you must know the entry point, timing, and how you move out, and how you make the party euphoria. Because surely, it's not easy when a vehicle is ahead of you. Probably you are coming from Mombasa. Assume a vehicle is already at Voi, and then the time you are arriving from Mombasa, and unless you go a speed of 300 kilometers per hour, there's no way you can beat that vehicle to Nairobi. If that vehicle will be at 100 kilometers per hour, unless you go at a speed of 300. Then in this particular case of this political contention, I believe, one, there is a fear that Ruto is unstoppable. Yeah. Is already they have actually it's like the ground has made them have a look out that yes, unless we unite. But the next thing is that why are they meeting themselves? They are already 4 in number, 4 contenders. If they can unite together, 4 of them,
seasoned politicians for that matter.
Why don't they think that actually they have mantle to win an election? Must they get the endorsement of Raila? Yes. Must they become part of Raila to win an election? Okay. I think the answer is no. Popularize just brand your coalition and popularize it to the people, and sell your ideologies to the people. Yes, that's the only way to beat any other contender. Otherwise, failure to that. I don't find. Let me tell you, it is even possible for all these guys to unite, including Honorable Raila Odinga, and get beaten. by that fearing fellow.
All right.
Because they have already created a perception.
Is that fellow that strong? And when you speak about that fellow, whether he's a strong, then we speak about the split or the much talked about split of Mount Kenya and that of the Mulembe Nation.
Now, Rita, what I would want to say about the four guys is that for Kalonzo, time is running out. If he is not on the ballot come 2022, I think his goose will be cooked in terms of the politics of Eastern Province. And also Musalia Mudavadi. As of now, the Mulembe Nation is kind of aligned around him.
Right.
And they think he is their best bet. And he knows if he is not on the ballot, also he should forget about the presidency in this country.
Okay.
So for the One Kenya Alliance to come together, unless there will be what we call a tripartite presidency, where all of them can be able to share the presidency. I don't see any one of them retreating to allow the other to move forward. So they are in an impasse.
That could be the reason why they say they really need to lock out ODM.
Yes,
because it's almost like it will be automatic Raila.
If Raila comes in.
Okay.
So it is a big problem. And I think on the issue of Mount Kenya, at the end of the day, I know it will come together, because we are driven by our interests in coffee, in milk, in tea, and the person will bring the best proposal for us. That is the person we are going to follow. We don't follow individuals who don't carry anything for us. We support individuals who carry our Do
you realize that Embu, the Rakanidi, these likes, and I mean there's that story that has been captured, the likes of Embu, Meru, and the Rakanidi politicians say if this time around Central won't back them, they're not in for it. It doesn't matter whether, a person from, of course, this other side would be bringing the best proposal.
It has always started like that.
But eventually,
pull and push. But eventually we look at the bigger picture.
I wish the Mulembe Nation would be speaking with the same confidence.
It's a part of bargaining.
Yes.
But I will tell you that the members of One Kenya Alliance are reaping what they sowed. If you sow without fertilizer, you will reap very little returns.
Were you not part of?
Yes, and I tried pushing.
Okay.
I told you what happened after Wetangula was removed as minority leader. I tried pushing, but it's like whistling in the wind. So they are reaping what they sowed. You see, if you want to be strong, you need to go throughout the country, meeting the people.
Okay.
If you restrict yourself to certain areas, then you will not reap big. So right now, I see Musalia has now woken up. I've seen him in various places, Coast, Central, Mount Kenya, and so on, which is good for him. But really, what's happening is that they are reaping what they sowed. They sowed very little, so they will reap very little. In politics, you have to sow widely. And this is why the problem they have. But anyway, one day in politics is a long time.
It is.
And there's still a year to go.
Right.
So if they don't postpone the elections, I remember in 2013, the elections were postponed to March when they were supposed to have been in December. And they postponed them slightly to March, which is not a very long postponement, so it was not too bad. And that was done by the courts. But this time, I think with 1 year down to the election, a day in politics is a long time. Let's see exactly what they are up to. I hope.
Is it 1 year down to elections? Let's now come to that conversation of whether there's going to be a postponement or not.
That's what I was saying, that I don't see any reasons to postpone. Unless, because if you talk of war, we are not at war at the moment. And a pandemic is not listed as one of the things that constitutionally that can lead to a postponement.
We have been still doing our by-election. So there's nothing major to disrupt our general election.
Other democracies have done their elections.
But we say 1 day in politics is quite a long time, so anything can happen in between, especially when people purpose for that to happen.
And you know what happens is that as we near the elections, the high octane kind of activities, then you'll now start separating the chaff from the wheat. So we still have a while. Remember, from 2002, most of the players in the general election, the big players, they formulate from 6 months onwards. When NAC was formed, in fact, NAC was formed almost 2 months to the election. Was it 2 or 3 months to the election?
To the elections.
Yes. So and then the people like PNU and whatever, when it was formed with ODM. Then you get to NASA and the then Jubilee Coalition. When were they formed? Before the election. That was CORD and the Jubilee coalitions. Then now you come to NASA and now the Jubilee Party. If you look at it, most of these things happen towards the end. And that is what the Deputy President is trying to avoid. He's trying to stand up as himself. He's no coalition, and so that he avoids that kind of scenario. But it all depends on whichever coalition comes up to contest against the Deputy President. It all depends on how they package themselves and how they do it.
All right.
So depending on how, that's what I was saying, one day in politics is a long time.
It's a long time.
But people need to learn that if you have ambition to be president of this country, you need to work at it and work at it very hard. Because like my two colleagues from Western, I've always told them that, look, you can carry this Western, but if you want to carry the Western properly, you should take it with Nyanza. If you take Western alone without Nyanza, you still have a problem.
Okay.
And I kept on telling him, don't keep on abusing this mzee. You might need him. But what you do
at the time of need,
go to Nyanza, popularize yourself in Nyanza,
okay,
so that this mzee can easily say, okay, nimemwachia huyu. But now if you keep on abusing him, is he going to do it?
Definitely not.
I looked at them and I said, now, why this? Why this? And somehow when I try to find out why are they abusing this mzee,
you can't quite
put a
pinpoint.
So the other day, this mzee goes with Uhuru Kenyatta to Nyanza and opens very many projects.
That's true.
Again, they say, naona vile amefanyia Nyanza, sisi hakutufanyia. But when we came together and put Oparanya and Eugene Wamalwa to spearhead for us projects, they really threw stones at us. They really threw stones at us. But there are a few that we managed to secure. And I'm hoping that the president will come to open those projects that we managed to secure.
Okay.
But these ones now, when Raila is doing his in Nyanza, they are again crying, but you've been throwing stones at him.
And it's actually politics of interest, evidently.
Yes.
Like Honorable Debo would say, it is always what is on the table for us. What is on the table for the Mulembe nation, especially when, of course, the bandwagon is being spearheaded by Musalia Mudavadi and the likes of Moses Wetangula. But then again, coming to this conversation that we have just started on, are we having a general election at all? Because when you look at the level at which this narrative is being propagated, of the fact that we might not have a general election, then you must understand that it is coming from somewhere, and not just somewhere, but somewhere strong. And these strong individuals would do anything in their power to make sure that such is the case.
I'm sure there are two major players of politics that will try to put this country behind. And these are the propagators of BBI. I have overheard the former Prime Minister when he was in Mombasa saying there are mechanisms to make sure that reggae has to continue. So in that particular case, the sentiment there is like telling us we can't have an election if it will not be under the banner or the roof of the BBI. And if that is the case, then you find a mechanism or a machination where there will be a corroborate effort to push Parliament to come with either that kind of proposal from petition from Kioni, or anything or some motion in Parliament that will try to bring an excuse on or the reason why we can't have an election. I can tell you, one, the ground that are coming on the table, and this is the ground to do with what we call the elimination of boundaries. It's not an excuse, because surely the Constitution is very clear about timelines. And the IBC has a timeline between 8 years and 12 years. And this is, yes, though we are in the 10th year, 9th year, we are not in the 12th year. And therefore, we are not time barred. And the time given by the Constitution to delimit has not lapsed. So nobody can stand to say that as an excuse to postpone an election. But because there is a motive, a hidden agenda that is being driven by some interested parties, you will find a lot of motives to try to bring that kind of element of trying to push election. But I'm telling you, this is a matter, even though the parliament will secure 2/3 of this particular process, it will die in court.
Okay.
No judicial will agree for an extension of time. And immediately the parliament pronounce itself to that particular approval, the next day there will be a court order.
How much of a damage would that be?
Okay, maybe what I would want to say is that I don't foresee, however remotely you look at it, I don't see our elections going beyond the 9th of August 2022.
Okay.
And I'm happy about the main political players. I can, the president from his body language is that he is preparing to go home.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister has clearly and candidly declared that the elections cannot be postponed even for a day. The Deputy President has also said the same. The leader of the ANC has also delivered himself on that very clearly. I think the main political players, all of them are for that the elections must be done on 9th of August 2022. Secondly, is that in the Constitution, although Githu Muigai says that there is nothing clear in the Constitution, I would say it is very, very clear that on the second Tuesday of the 5th year, there must be a general election. I don't see anything that can change that. And under the Constitution, only a referendum can intervene to move the date of the general election, or when there is a state of war. I don't see anybody, unless we try very hard to be at war with anybody. If we have not been at war with Somalia...
But the referendum is almost here, so to speak. Do you think the referendum conversation still holds water, and therefore...
It's before the court, so we need to see what the courts come up with.
Yes.
But I would like to say that our constitution, the 2010 constitution, while it was progressive and everything, some people conspire to throw in some things which are not good.
Yeah.
Even this thing of the second Tuesday of August. When you really try to find out why did they pick on the second Tuesday of August? But when you try to study it properly, you realize there were some influences that led to that decision. Because second Tuesday of August, on a Tuesday, you know, which is a working day.
Right.
Then in August, yet most people actually travel to the up countries in December. Does that explain to you the low water turnout in Western?
Okay, all right.
So some of these things were thrown in with ill motives. Some of these things were thrown in with ill motives. And we know the perpetrators of that ill motive.
All right. That's an interesting way to view this. It makes sense. It makes sense. All right.
When you look at the low water turnout in some of those places.
No, many people will be willing to travel all the way to
but now it's 2nd of August. So 2nd of August on a Tuesday.
Why did the Secretary General want Westerners who has consumed a lot of resources in the city to get back to rural to vote
there and not vote for you.
Well, for sure, these are the people who are spawned by bursaries, who are spawned by development in the city, and then when it comes to voting, they must go home.
We have now told them to take votes here.
Vote.
And now, be very careful. We are coming to take over.
Allah. Now that goes straight to you, Mheshimiwa.
And maybe
we are ready for that.
Provoked us, yes. We are coming.
You're coming to buy in Nairobi.
Of course. We are going to film.
We are ready for the competition.
We are going to take this.
And we are ready for the healthy competition.
Because that was just one. Several other little things were thrown in that constitution that are not really good. And they are unimplementable. You see, if you have a fast past the post kind of election that we have, then you say there must be gender balance in the National Assembly and in the Senate. How will you achieve that when you are fast past the post? Then the only way would have been to have a proportional representation. Then that way you'll achieve that gender whatever. So there are some things that were thrown in there which are
totally confusing,
which make full implementation
very hard to implement.
Very difficult.
All right.
And maybe what I would say about the postponement and the being tied with the 27 constituencies is that those constituencies will be there during the next elections. And still the IBC to review the boundaries has until March 2024 to do the same. So there is no any urgency in tying the 27 constituencies with the coming general elections. But unless there is a hidden agenda, I would want to say, because we listen to the ground, that nobody should attempt at all to move the date of the general election, even by 1 day further.
Okay.
Yes.
And Linda, I want to assure people of Madhyoya, people from Kangema, and the rest of the country where they have been politically put some codes that actually their constituencies are going to be taken away. They are going to elect their leaders in the current shape and current order.
No
and I am telling you, the constitution is very clear that the 12th year is only when there can be a lapse of time to determine it. So the prayers of the team that actually conduct the election has no any jurisdiction to put those secured constituencies out of the election come next election. Yeah.
All right.
They are part of the election.
Okay, thank you so much. Brian Olemunagai says, in every political debate through all TV stations, the name Ruto has to surface. He definitely is a man to watch. Wycliffe Musudi says, but I understand Eseli and crew are putting together 30 million to buy a certain dormant party. The chairman of that party has been moving around bragging how he is about to become rich. Yes or no?
I don't have that kind of money.
Okay.
I think that's what they should do.
All right.
And if I had 30 million, I know how to spend it. I will not use it to buy a party.
All right, Ibrahim Niheso says Msambweni, Rorie, Juja, London Ward, Kiambadi fits to Jubilee and ODM, and still some still say we will wake up my friend Mtapata wana si wenu. Huyu Ruto na hustler narrative is the man to watch, and probably your daily critics to DP markets him a lot. Now you need to be keen on that. Those ones who are trying to battle him out, and very many other responses that we have here. I'm afraid time would not allow us to go through all of them. No, not here. Generally, I guess that was just, a general perspective, and especially maybe directed to the likes of One Kenya Alliance, who are strongly forming this formidable force just so they would battle it out with him. On that very note, gentlemen, Jimmy Gakuya, allow me to call you that. Embakasi North Member of Parliament, Dr. Iseli Simiyu, Tongoran Member of Parliament. No final comments, sir. There's no time. Wakili Ndego, Home Chair, County Assemblies Forum. See you on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.